2:53.
2:53. Well, that would give us plenty of time for lunch. Welcome to this very special holiday edition of PIX on Pigskin. Still from the PIX 11 Sports Department, high above 42nd Street, here in the heart of New York City. Skyscrapers and everything, just like I pictured it. I'm your host, Todd Ehrlich, the executive producer of the PIX 11 Sports Department. With us today, the best-selling author, the man who has covered New York football since 1989. Most of you weren't born. Possibly we'll have a big announcement next week, we think. The one, the only, Gary Myers.
Happy holidays to you guys.
Oh, happy
you as
holidays
well.
to you. And of course, joining us is the host of the New York Blitz, the hostess with the mostest.
All right, enough with the superlatives. Let's go. Gary's got to catch a train.
That is a solid point, but I had a lot of superlatives for you, Joe. No average Joe, your Joe and ours, Joe Misseri. Thank you, Joe.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, Joe likes to have a rundown. He likes to know what we're going to talk about. The Jets are flying with a new pilot yet again this week. Two of them were grounded with COVID. We'll dig into that. The Jets lost on Monday night, then lost their OC, Jason Garrett. That's coach to you. So, yes, thank you. So what can we expect when the heat is turned up in Freddie's kitchen and he unveils the
So
new
good with
Big
the
Blue
words.
offense? I'm a wordsmith.
He should write a book.
I should write a book. There might be an announcement, but it's certainly not going to be next Tuesday because that's saved for Gary Myers. So let's take a look at the Giants and Eagles. It's a division tilt. It's a rivalry game. Giants Stadium, Strahan's number. It's going to be retired, and my prediction is more Eagle fans than Giant fans at the game. So Gary Myers, was it the right move to let go of Jason Garrett?
I believe you said it was going to be a Giant stadium, and in case you weren't paying attention,
Is it MetLife now?
that is now a parking lot.
It is a parking lot. So Snoopy took over the stadium.
And that's where the Giant fans will be heading early
Yes.
on Sunday afternoon.
Yes, to Giant
Well
Stadium, the
How's that
parking
for
lot.
putting that together?
It was well
Perfect.
played. It was
Yeah.
well played, my friend.
Hey, I think that, listen, the way the Giants' offense was going, if they had any hope
Wasn't going.
Right. I think getting rid of Jason Garrett was probably the right move. I'm not sure hiring him in the first place was the right move, and certainly bringing him back for his second season, that wasn't the right move. If they were going to fire him, they really should have done it on the bye week to install whatever changes in the offense they were going to do rather than on a short
What
week.
about on a short week? Yeah.
They're going up again. This is. Last week I said the Giants' season was on the line. This week I really mean it. if they can't win this game,
Last week was a must-win game. This is a must-win
right?
game.
If they can't win this game, then the whole attention is can the Giants get the second pick in the draft? Can they beat out the Jets for the second pick in the draft? I think they'll show a spark early with Freddie Kitchens calling the plays. But like I mentioned on the show this week, let's not confuse Freddie Kitchens with Bill Walsh. Usually when you have a coaching change or basically in any sport, there's an initial spark. But, these games are long. And I think the Giants will show maybe some enthusiasm or maybe a little more energy on the
What about
first
new
drive.
wrinkles?
You can't show any
Wrinkles?
less energy.
Yeah,
I think.
they
No,
really
they
showed.
can't.
But I
New
just,
wrinkles out of Freddie's kitchen? See what I did there?
I know, but like I said, I don't think that we go, okay, this is an offensive genius that's now
I
taking
mean, they
over
might
the
throw it
football.
to the tackle.
They
That'd be a new. Oh wait, no, they did
they
that
did
wrinkle
that.
Let's
last
just
week.
remember,
By the way, that was some catch by
That
Andrew
was some
Thomas.
catch.
I don't think
He
he's
could be
getting
a
enough
tight end.
credit.
You
he
don't
has
know.
more touchdown catches than Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay
Combined.
Well, let's
not
also
good,
remember
right?
the one game that
He
Freddie,
hasn't even played that much.
the one day that Freddie stepped out of the kitchen last year to call the plays for the Giants when Jason Garrett was unavailable. The Giants scored 6 points against the Cleveland Browns. when Freddie presumably was incredibly motivated to stick it up the rear end of his former team, and they scored 6 points. So
Is that a lot?
no, and I think that the Eagles are playing obviously the best they've played all
Yes,
season.
yes.
Jalen Hurts seems to be in
Yes.
some form of a rhythm. The Giants defense can't stop anybody, so that aforementioned parking lot, we'll be seeing a lot of action probably around 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon.
You know a good tailgate out there we could go to? You know
Check-
a lot of people.
I do, but none of them would want you there.
It's not me, it was Joe.
Oh no, I'll give.
All right, we'll talk off the air.
There will be a lot of Eagles fans. I don't know that there'll be a lot of more Eagles fans than Giant fans. If they were playing the Steelers, there'd be more Steeler fans because they travel.
It's a
better
short
and-
trip
It is.
up the New Jersey trip.
And Giant fans are
Depending on
probably
2
trying to get
hours.
rid of some of their tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Strahan is going to space, so he doesn't have to watch the team play.
And this is the
Smart.
first of 2 trips up the Turnpike for the Eagles in a 3-week period because they return to face the New York Football Jets.
An all-green battle. Joe, what can Freddie Kitchens do to get Galladay, Barkley, and the rest of the playmakers more involved?
Can he stop his quarterback from turning over the ball?
I don't know.
Because if he can do that, that could go a long way in helping this out.
Get
I mean,
Bill Walsh, little West Coast offense, short passes, rhythm. Maybe he'll do that.
that
Well,
was
that
one
was a
of
short pass when he hit Steve McClendon in the box.
Yes, that's exactly. Yes, that was one of the most bizarre interceptions I've ever seen
That was
thrown in my life.
unbelievable.
Steve McClendon couldn't believe he intercepted
Have the
it. I
Giants
think.
ever wore that color pewter and red? Or
No,
yeah, I
not
don't
that
know.
I'm aware of.
What do you think was a better touchdown, a better celebration? Andrew Thomas's touchdown
Oh no, they had the better celebration.
or the Bucks rowing the boat? in the
No,
end
no,
zone?
no. They
Oh,
had, well,
which
Tom
was
loves
a
rowing
form.
the boat.
I do love rowing the
He
boat.
loves rowing the
I
boat.
love it.
Who
We
said
all
you
have to
think you
row
had the better one?
together.
Oh, the Giants' offensive
And-
line.
yeah,
Oh yeah, they were
well, it was
breaking
the
it
Bucks,
down.
clearly
and it
knew
was
that-
JPP.
The Giants' offensive line had a better
Then the
touchdown
rowing
celebration than the
no,
rowing. Yes,
the rowing was
You
great.
gotta
That
go
was
watch the tape.
JPP.
But these
I
were the-
understand. Well, he
See,
only
here's
had
the thing.
7 fingers, I think,
Right,
because he had
exactly.
one broken
The
last night.
The Giants' offensive lineman clearly knew that Andrew Thomas was going to break out of his touchdownless streak.
Yes,
Drought.
absolutely.
It was a drought.
Because he was back off the IR.
Right, exactly.
right. And they probably
he was
practiced
finally
it.
healthy.
They probably practiced that play about 75
They
times.
should have
last
practiced the screen a little bit more
Yeah.
rather than the dancing.
Or maybe
Good point.
practice giving Saquon the ball more than 6 times or whatever.
Even
Oh,
on
my.
even on that play though, Daniel Jones is rolling back for his life and throws it up in the air. Great catch by Andrew Thomas, like not getting enough credit for that. And then Daniel Jones, obviously, that was the one moment of the night, I guess, and he just threw it up. I guess he figured it worked there when he threw to Andrew Thomas on that play, that with the interception, if I just throw it up again under pressure,
He wanted to
it'll
see what
work.
kind of hands Steve McClendon had.
Oh my goodness! Well, it
Oh,
was more
my
belly. He
goodness.
just kind of engulfed that ball the way it worked out.
You know,
but-
it's just, I really, in all seriousness, I really feel horrible.
I think you're in the wrong podcast if you want people to be serious.
Yeah.
There are moments
I
of
feel- I
seriousness.
feel-
We get back to
I
the
feel bad for
frivolity.
Giants and Jets fans. I mean, here it is, we're at Thanksgiving, and we're really focusing on the draft already.
I'm
And,
thankful they have a lot of draft picks.
and the season goes longer than it did last year.
Yeah.
And so there's more misery involved. And, I know there's not a huge crossover between Giants and Jets fans, but I'd like to at least see one of the two fan bases have some reason to feel excited around Christmas time.
it could change the tone of this entire podcast.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we're trying to be entertaining here when
And positive.
and the teams that we're talking about are not giving us a lot of reason.
But
or
seriously,
entertainment value.
But look at this matchup right now, and I think something that's really concerning is they get ready to take on the Eagles. Daniel Jones seems to have regressed into all of his turnover problems that were an issue at the beginning of his career, and they're playing an Eagles team. I think Darius Slay has more touchdowns than the entire Giants wide receiving core this season. He's got 3 or 4 touchdowns over the last few weeks, pick sixes and fumble returns. So that's a bad recipe. That's a horrible recipe.
And you have to wonder also, like, not that the Eagles are that far ahead of the Giants in the standings or anything. It's still,
I think they're
5 and 6, and the Giants 3 and 7. So they're 2 games ahead. They're still under 500. I think it's much too premature to say they've turned the corner, but through 11 games of the season, or 10, whatever it is, that they're clearly, their arrow is pointing up
Yes.
at a much sharper rate than the Giants right now. And you
Yes.
go, well, how did that happen?
Well-
Last year the Giants, finished ahead of the Eagles. The Giants have the veteran quarterback of the two
Yes.
young quarterbacks, and Jalen Hurts all of a sudden is in a rhythm, and Daniel Jones is not. And I just refuse to believe it's all Jason Garrett's fault. It's a lot of it is Jones's fault.
Well, other than Sonny Jurgensen, don't draft a quarterback out of Duke. I think that's what we just learned.
Well,
look
wait,
at Alabama and Oklahoma.
Wait a minute. For everybody killing, because I've heard this all week about Dave Gettleman on New York Sports Talk
Killing
Radio.
him.
Killing
Killing
him
him.
about drafting Jones, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, every fan wanted them to take Dwayne Haskins in that spot.
How'd that work
And
out?
that-
He's
right.
in Pittsburgh.
So of the
Would
two
you
qu-
rather be a Steeler fan or a Giant fan?
No.
Well, that's not how this
That's
works.
not how that works.
Well, everyone loves the backup quarterback,
But
Joe.
in all seriousness, of the two quarterbacks that they were, between,
who
and they needed a
drafted
quarterback.
Haskins?
The WFT.
WTF is what they said.
They do
after
say
they
that
drafted
now.
him.
Yes, exactly.
But the Giants should have taken Josh Allen in that spot, right?
Could have.
They could have, yeah.
They
But
could
Not,
have.
not the quarterback, Josh Allen.
The
linebacker
Yes.
that went to Jacksonville. The Giants had 2 first-round picks in that draft because the other one they got in the Beckham trade. And I think what Giant fans were really upset about is they used the number 6 pick on Jones when they felt they could have got him
Later
on. And
But you don't know that. Draft day, quarterbacks are such high priority.
Yeah.
You don't know if Washington would take him if another team saw what Gettleman
yeah,
saw.
if you're totally committed to a quarterback and you really believe he's the guy,
Right.
then you take him no matter where you're picking. But it's just hard to believe that the Giants had that kind of a conviction on Daniel Jones. He played okay at Duke. It
Right.
wasn't like they challenged for the ACC title. More people saw Dave Brown, another Duke first-round pick by the Giants.
Trivia question: who caught Dave Brown's first pass at Giant Stadium, which is now a parking lot?
Amani Toomer?
No. Gary?
Howard Cross?
Nope.
I give up.
Todd Ehrlich. So here's what
What?
happened. So we go out.
I
so
never
we
would
go-
have got that.
Of course,
So
it
we
was
go-
Todd Ehrlich.
So
It was
he-
your
telling
next
the
guess,
story.
wasn't it?
Right, so he gets picked to the supplemental draft. We go out to Giant Stadium to cover it. It's just Dave Brown. I'm like, dude, we need B-roll of you. There's no one else there.
Did he know who B-roll was? He was a
Yes,
smart
of
guy.
course he
Yeah,
did. He
was a
went to
smart guy.
Duke.
Yeah.
He's no Joe Masseri, but he's smart. So he says to me, you have a football? I said, absolutely. I went and got him a football. He says, okay, who am I throwing to? He goes, it was your idea. You go out for the pass. Let me tell you something.
I would have loved to.
I have never looked a ball literally into and cradled it like it was Jagger,
who cared?
David Ehrlich in 2017.
This was like
I was not
this
dropping.
was his
This is my
Tyree
one
moment.
shining
This is his
moment,
Tyree
Gary.
moment.
I know, but
I can't get credit
the
for my
camera
one
was
shining
on Dave
moment.
Brown. It wasn't on
Of
you.
course, why would you shoot me?
Exactly. So who cares whether you caught the ball or
I
not?
care, and you know
He
why I
didn't,
care?
but there's no video
No, I
evidence.
did.
It's the athletic arrogance in him.
Exactly.
He thought people cared.
Captain of my high school basketball team, but can I tell you why? Why?
You were the captain of your high school basketball?
Yes, I was. Thank you for asking. Can I finish my story? So this is why I'm so proud of it, because I knew at some point on a podcast, which was never invented yet, I would be able to share that story, and I just did now. And yes, Kiski, my private school, 9th grade, captain of my freshman team. All right, so now, speaking of captains, Michael Strahan is going to get honored at halftime. They are going to retire his number. They did not retire my number at Kiski, although I think they should have. Gary Myers, where would he rank on your all-time Giant list? You know a little something about the Giants and their history.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Michael. Being the first Giant to go into space.
We said
Pretty good.
It's impressive.
My money was on LT the whole time, but Strahan volunteered first. Where is he on the all-time list? Oh, I don't know. I mean, certainly, Taylor's ahead of him, Frank Gifford, Eli Manning, Phil Simms, Harry Carson, Carl Banks, I think was better than Strahan.
Wow.
Does he make the top 10? So are we getting there?
Banksy? You thought Banksy was better than Stray?
Carl Banks might be the most underrated player in the history of the NFL.
Wow. More underrated than Sonny Jurgensen?
No, he was overrated, Sonny Drew.
By me. Certainly by me.
Yeah, I'd say Strahan's a top 10 Giant.
Top 10.
Emlyn Tunnell, but, let's go back
To your youth.
before Joe's parents' time,
Right. You were in high school.
Sam
right?
Huff,
Of course, Sam Huff.
Y.A. Tittle,
Certainly.
Charlie Connolly,
Yep.
Tiki Barber.
Ugh, I don't think so. By the way, you just kicked him out of the top 10. So
Joe Morris.
Kiki doesn't make it.
He's no longer in
Joe
the top
Morris
10.
doesn't make it either. O.J. Anderson?
No.
Okay, just checking. He does have a Super Bowl MVP, I'm just saying.
Yeah, Strahan
And
is,
so does Timmy Smith.
Strahan is a
Only
top
the
10
great.
Giant.
Okay,
I would say.
good.
I would not argue that he's a top 5 Giant.
You wouldn't argue with us anyway. You always
No, and-
agree with us.
Right, and Brett Favre gave him that last sack.
He certainly did. That was a gift that keeps on giving. All right, speaking of gifts, it's prediction time. I always give a gift. Joe Massari, who's going to win on Sunday?
I think this is going to be a really tight game. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to pull it off, though. I think the Eagles win this one by a field goal. I'm going 27-24 Eagles.
Wow.
I can really see the Giants having that initial burst of energy with
Yep.
a new play caller and Freddie
Yep.
getting all wild and throwing it to the right tackle this time instead of the left tackle.
It's a new wrinkle.
Yeah, I really feel strongly that the Giants are going to score a touchdown on their first possession. The crowd's going to go crazy. The Giants will be all popped up on the sidelines. The announcement.
The Eagles fans in attendance are going to go crazy.
Right.
What a brilliant move by Joe Judge, and then the Giants will get a field goal the rest of the game and lose 31-10.
31-10. So I would
Let's
Let
go
me
just...
just say,
Giants
wait,
win.
let me just say this: everybody's talking about the Eagles. This Eagles team is not as good
No.
as people are making them out to be right now. And
They
like,
are hot.
But they played a Trevor Siemian-led New Orleans Saints team. Who really, what's going on over there
You got
right
a
now?
4-year contract.
And
Just say.
no, that wasn't him.
No.
That was Taysom Hill.
that's Taysom Hill. You're right.
who-
You're
his
right.
Backup
part-
quarterbacks,
His
right.
part-time
You're
quarter-
right.
His part-time
Time,
quarterback
right, exactly.
slash running
No,
back.
it's not that the Eagles are playing that well. They're at least showing signs of improvement. Where
100%.
the Giants are regressing.
Yes.
Agreed. So, because I'm always positive about you guys and about the local teams, the Eagles' defense has given up the 4th most points in the NFC. I see them giving up 31 points
Woo!
to Freddie's Kitchen, which is going to be red hot all day.
Freddie's be cooking in the kitchen.
He
huh?
has been cooking in the kitchen. I'm going there for Thanksgiving instead of your house.
Oh, there you go.
31-30, Big Blue wins.
If that happens, that means the Freddie Kitchen-led Giants offense will have scored 30 points in his tenure as many times as the Giants scored 30 points under Jason Garrett's tenure. So
I don't think did they score 30 at all?
once
Did
they scored once in his tenure 30 points. Was that the game that might have been? Was that Daniel Jones's first game? No, because it was the next year he came. Right
No, you might be right. When they played in Tampa.
in Tampa.
Yeah, but that
I
was
think
Pat Shurmur. That was Pat Shurmur.
okay. So it wasn't even him. Right. Garrett came the next year. So, but he's got one in there. There's one on there. I'll go through the books and check exactly when it was.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are substituting a New York Times best-selling author for a member of the New York Jets all-time team. Their linebacker and ours, the one, the only, Greg Buttle.
It's just awesome. It's just awesome. I love a sitting ovation.
Yes. Hey, it's too much effort for us to stand up. but
We're
there
tied.
was
There's
love.
wires. We're stuck.
Yeah. We're tethered.
Yeah.
We're tethered. So, Mr. Buttle, just like you coming back onto the podcast, Zach Wilson is back at the helm piloting the Jets with Joe.
Hold on. That's not fair to Buttle. He didn't miss 4 weeks.
No, but he missed the Giant segment.
All right. I mean, a segment. Come on.
It was a great segment.
All right. I just wanted
It
to
would
let
have
the
been
record
better with
show.
him.
Yeah, of course.
So Zach is back the quarterback. He's under center with Josh backing him up. Flacco and White are now on the reserve COVID list. What kind of a turmoil does this kind of quarterback situation end up affecting a team like the Jets?
Well, I would tell you if in fact it was nondescript from the beginning of the year, where there was just one quarterback, I'd say that this is not a big deal because of COVID. But it's such a mishmash of what's happened with the Jets at quarterback, notwithstanding the fact of injuries. I mean, they've gone through every quarterback on the roster, to be honest with you.
They had to bring another one in so they could go through that one too.
Right. And again, it's not, I don't think for 1 second any Jet fan, any really Jet fan out there thinks that Joe Flacco is going to be their guy. And they're probably more interested in seeing a Wilson out there or a Mike White out there, so that they can see what their future is going to be like. Because obviously Joe Flacco is not the future. He's not a bad player, and he was a great quarterback at one time. But, I give him his props. But just like anybody else, you're getting old, it's time to get out.
Is the Jets offense better than people think it is? I mean, Flacco threw for 302 touchdowns. Josh Johnson went for over 300. Mike White's jersey went to the Hall of Fame. Are people not giving the Jets offense enough credit?
That's a mouthful because it's almost like you did hit it on the head, is that the offense works. The question is does the game plan work? And so far, you've seen the game plan work 3 times and the game plan not work, 5 times or whatever it is. And you wonder, is it the game plan or is it the guy behind center? And if it's not the guy behind center, is it the offensive line? And if it's not the offensive line, is it the rookies at running back? I mean, is it the wide receiver? All of these things come into play. That's a loaded question. But I would tell you that I believe the West Coast offense is pretty good. And if you can figure out how to run it, and not necessarily play call, I think it's more about the quarterback understanding the 3-dimensional aspect of the West Coast offense that allows him to become better and utilize it much more than he's utilized it yet. And I think the first guy that ever utilized it was Joe Montana.
Bill Walsh.
And Joe Montana was pretty sharp because everyone used to look at him and go, he got no arm.
Used every blade of grass on the field.
Not even a good-looking guy, and they got him a quarterback, and he played great. So I think you got to give that a little time, but I do think that the offense is capable. Yes.
I think that the one common denominator in the games that they've lost when the offense hasn't looked good is turnovers. Whether it was Zach Wilson, who led the league in turnovers before his injury, or Mike White, when he came in, had his bad game. He threw, I think it was 4 interceptions in that one. In the NFL, if you're turning the ball over, it doesn't matter. Even the Tennessee Titans last week had 5 turnovers against the Texans, and then they end up losing to a 1-8 team at the time. So if you can't hold on to the ball, you're not going to win the game. And they were able to move the ball still in some of those cases, but ultimately you're not able to get into the end zone. You're limiting your possessions and you're putting your defense in a bad spot. So yes, I do think that this Jets offense and the talent they have on it is not being appreciated enough. However, if you can't hold on to the ball, it doesn't matter.
So let's take a look at that offense. Elijah Moore, rookie, 8 catches, 141 yards. Michael Carter, their leading rusher, looked pretty decent. And now we got Zach, who obviously is the number 2 draft pick, and everybody's very excited about him. Greg Buttle, can the Jets hang their hat on this trio of young players looking into the future?
I don't know about hanging a hat. I'm always one of those things where you go, the running backs are, I say this tongue in cheek, a dime a dozen. I mean, the way that the NFL is today, it's throw the ball. So you better be able to catch the ball first, run it second. Everyone loves to see a great pound and ground game. And I think that's old style football. I don't necessarily think it wins for you today.
It's working out for New England right now.
Well, I don't.
Defense and running the ball seems to be working okay for them.
Well, but the kid plays pretty good within the passing game that they have, the scope of what he does.
And he doesn't turn it over.
Well, that's a big deal. When he does turn it over, they lost, didn't they?
Right.
So the point being is that I like the thing that the Jets on offense have. No, I don't say hit their stride, but I think what they've done is they've turned the corner on philosophy, and that is throw the ball first, run it second. And in the NFL, how do you do that? You need a quarterback, you need wide receivers, you need offensive tackles. That's what you need. And so far, that's how they have addressed their football team. I like it.
So speaking of things to like and dislike, Joe talked about turnovers, undisciplined football, and penalties. It's what cost the Jets the game against Miami. You played the game, as I like to point out, constantly and incessantly. Are penalties on the players or coaches, Mr. Buttle?
Well, I've always felt that, you know, penalties are both players and coaches alike are responsible for penalties. And so when you take a look at some of the penalties that are out there, you know, just go over for a fact. You have, let's just say, defensive holding, pass interference. I mean, those are physical penalties. I categorize them as mental, physical, and it doesn't matter. You're just going to have them. And when you talk about penalties, most penalties are on the players, fewer on the coaching staff, but sometimes those are the plays that hurt a drive the most. That's the delay of game thing. That's where coaches, they can't even get the play in fast enough because they didn't manage the clock, and they're going to blame it on the quarterback. But the bottom line is if you don't take a timeout appropriately, and I'm for one don't think that you should take a timeout just because you're going to take a delay of game penalty. I think a timeout is very important, particularly in the second half. But, you know, the personnel confusion on the sidelines is done by coaching. The play calling in the play when the right personnel are on the field or not anticipating it. So that's coaching. When you talk about, you know, roughing the quarterback, I think, and I've said this to other people, that the NFL has to do something better with that rule, because within that rule, it's all about context. It's about, did the referee or the umpire or whoever, the back judge, was there really malicious intent to hurt the quarterback, or did he accidentally, you know, swat him in the head because as he went to block the pass, his hand came forward and hit him in the helmet? I mean, come on. Just because a couple it does worse for the defensive lineman hitting the quarterback's helmet with his fingers than it does for the quarterback. So
you're always looking out for those underappreciated defensive linemen.
I speak from fact.
Yes.
Just so we know.
And experience.
Right. So when it comes down to you know, the personal fouls, now that's discipline. That's a lack of discipline that gets overtaken. You may have a disciplined player, but for a couple plays, maybe somebody is chopping at you and cutting you and doing something, so you get emotionally tied into it, and you cause a personal foul, you know, which is 15 yards, and next thing you know, that was all about you. And so they're thinking more about themselves, about someone embarrassing them or calling their mother a name, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But next thing you know is the we is gone. That defensive team is gone. It's all about that guy. And I think those are very costly, and you can get rid of them. You don't have to have any of those personal foul penalties because they are malicious intent. The other penalty, which is just absolutely ridiculous in my estimation, is the taunting rule. Now, taunting, again, that's in context. If you're on the sidelines and the referee doesn't hear what the guy on the sideline says to the player that had gone out of bounds from the other team, and then the other guy, you know, points his finger at him,
right,
and says, "Don't you talk to me like that." He gets the taunting penalty, and you know, so it's so weird, it's so stupid, and I think that they should do away with that, and at worst, make it a 5-yard penalty. I mean, they should get rid of pass interference in the end zone, puts the ball at the 1 yard line.
You want it to be the 2?
games are lost because of this. And,
Well, yeah, but if a guy's open
and they
in the
never
end
call
zone,
offensive. How often do they call offensive pass interference?
very rarely. It happens,
right.
but it's very rare. Listen,
I rest
I'm
my
with you.
case.
I'm with you. The penalties, first of all, I love watching good defensive football. Like that Super Bowl between the Rams and the Patriots, which everyone hated. I really enjoyed the chess match that was going on there between McDermott and Belichick. So I appreciate good defensive football. And, Tom Brady's on your side. Even a quarterback, he came out and said it this year, said these penalties have gone too far and we're penalizing the defense when the offense makes mistakes. So you leave your wide receiver exposed over the middle and he gets blown up by a middle linebacker and all of a sudden, oh, that's targeting because he was vulnerable. Well, he was vulnerable because I made a mistake as a quarterback or we made a mistake as a team to leave him in that position. I shouldn't have thrown that ball. So the game is changing way too much, I think, in that direction, but they want their stars to be healthy, and that's why they want to have them out there. So you get that at least a little bit. The taunting penalty, a guy points when he scores a touchdown. We saw in one of the games coming up, there does have to be a line there, especially when they are so subjective. They're so subjective, these penalties.
So, Greg, you understand taunting better than almost anybody, as you taunt us constantly and incessantly. Can you give us a story, because we're not on the field, we don't hear what's said. So like you said, something could be said, someone points a finger, they get the penalty. Can you give us a between the lines taunting story from your days?
Well,
what have you heard?
Well, what have I heard? I think some of the best taunting on a football field is not between players, but between players and the referees.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, you need glasses. Did you even get past your driving lesson with eyes like that? I mean, talking to the referees, I mean, and most of them, by the way, kind of know you. You kind of know them, and so they know who you are, and they just bullshit you. They go, "All right, shut up." And and the one story, which was great, which was like the who was it? Hank Stram, Sam Ratigliano. I can't remember which one of them, because that's what I loved. I love that the coaches that interacted with the referees and they got caught on NFL films.
The best, Hank Stram,
saying
the ball down the field.
It's saying to one of the referees after he throws another 15-yard penalty in his team, he says, "You know what? You stink. You stink so high, I can smell you to the upper stands." He says, "Oh, yeah?" He walks off 15 yards and says, "How do I smell from here?" and that's an old story, but it's true. And you look at those things, and there's a place for that within the game. But you can't disrupt the game because of it. And that's what happens now. Now you're disrupting the game because you're throwing a 15-yard penalty or a 10-yard penalty for taunting. For taunting, really. Right. I'm not allowed to touch the quarterback. And if I call him a name, I'm getting penalized. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Jerry Glanville, the NFL stands for not for long.
Or no fun league.
Well, but he said not for long to a ref. Buttle saying it's a no fun league with all these penalties. So, Greg, you talk a lot about process over wins and losses. You also talk a lot, quite frankly. You also talk a lot to fans on your post-game show. So what would you say to them if you could talk to them on our podcast about what they should be focusing on with the Jets?
I can tell you, I can tell fans the same thing I do on the shows. And you will get some fans calling in saying, you're spinning this, or you're doing this, or you're homing that, and I totally disagree with them, because I come at it from a different position. I don't come at our radio show that I do with Dan Grassa, post game and pregame show on the ESPN radio. I don't.
Plug.
I should.
Absolutely.
Should. We just did. You should.
You know what it is never in the 20 years I've been doing this has any one of my bosses at the Jets told me what I could or could not say. And I'm not one to just go out there and say, fire that guy because a fan is upset that they lost the game. Now, a fan can go do that because that's part of being a fan. You buy your ticket, you buy your tailgate, you do everything. So I get that. It's an emotional process with that. So when you look at the Jets, there's time is very meaningful for Jet fans because they've been losing for a long time. Forget the 2 years that Rex Ryan went to the championship game. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1968, and that's the overwhelming factor when it comes to fans. That if the Jets went out and won a Super Bowl tomorrow, it would erase everything that happened the previous
100%.
For a decade.
Right. So what fans don't care about is the process that we talk about, and the process, unfortunately, starts every time they hire a new head coach. The process isn't from when Woody Johnson took over. I think Woody Johnson's done an admirable job from when he first came in and knew nothing really about football to now. I got to tell you, I've had conversations with Woody Johnson where I'm amazed at how much he understands about what is happening, not just from a 30,000 foot overview of his team, but in reality, what it takes to catch a football. What it takes for players to have an underthrown pass and an over-the-shoulder kick. All of these things, he understands that very well. And how the play and X's and O's, I think I was a little surprised that he knew as much as he did, because I don't know, I don't speak to many owners, but certainly Woody Johnson has come a long way, especially with his knowledge of football. But there is a process. And the process, unfortunately for Jet fans, starts and restarts every time a coach is fired and a new one is hired. And every fan out there is acceptable of a coach getting fired. Okay, they're happy with it. But if they're happy with it, then they've got to be happy with the process, because now they want the process to start again.
So
the process is getting everybody on the same page, which includes first-time offensive coordinators, first-time defensive coordinators, first-time coaches on your football team that you have no idea who they are, but he was the only guy available. And I will tell you something, that goes for every new guy that becomes a new head coach. Where's he getting the offensive coordinator from? They're all under contract. How are you going to steal one guy away? It's very difficult to do that. So you've got to get lucky within a system that you have been in for a number of years, that that other guy that's on offense has been in for a number of years, instead of getting a guy where you have no idea what his name is, where he came from. This is his offense. How are you going to get along with him? And man, that is a tough process, let alone new players, a young team, injuries, the draft, a new general manager. All of these things are a huge process. And unfortunately, the Jets have undergone that 5 times in the last 20 years.
Right. When it comes to that process, though, because I'm curious, I look at this and I see, when you talk about those young players, we just talked about some of the bright spots on offense, right? It seems like it's clicking for Michael Carter. It seems like it's clicking for Elijah Moore. Before he got hurt, Elijah Vera Tucker looked like it was clicking for him. On the defensive side of the ball, it seems like there's a regression. And you have these young guys who just are getting beat on big plays, who are having these penalties in just key spots. And again, this is Saleh's focus, or was his focus before he came over here as a defensive coordinator. So how concerning is that to you? Because I think we acknowledged, right, the whole thing about this year was going to be, are they moving in the right direction? Are they getting better? Are these games getting more competitive? Outside of this game against the Dolphins this past weekend, these games haven't been competitive, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, is that more concerning to you? Or do you think the process is working on that side of the ball?
I think that you have to, when you're more around me during a game, you would understand it better.
Well, if you're in the press box, you don't even have to be close to you. You're the only person that's loud in the press box. Everyone else, you can hear a pin drop. You can hear you from the other side.
Joe, that's fake news.
That's 100% accurate, and has been for a decade.
So
I find you entertaining.
So I don't mean to be entertaining,
but you are
entertaining. So, point being is, when it comes down to it, this game in the NFL, a little different than when I played. This is all about offense. forget defense. It's a defense is a nominal equation out there. They've taken special teams and made it just, kick a field goal. So special teams, really, you don't even have to cover anybody on a kickoff. Really on punting, you've got to be very careful. And most punters can hang the ball up there for 5 seconds. So that's lucky to return a punt return for a touchdown or something to that effect. The only place on anything that makes sense is offense. That's where you score all your points, roughly speaking. That's where,
Except if you're the Giants.
you have a lot of avenues to use, and you can also use defensive pass interference is one of them. Throw the ball up there, and you're going to get a pass interference call. And if you have great athletes that are able to do that, you're more than likely going to get one of them. And we've seen it happen week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And with all of the teams, and some of the great quarterbacks are throwing it up there. And if there's a 50-50 chance of an interception, there's probably a better chance of a pass interference.
Yeah, but Greg, everybody in the league is playing by these same rules, and this isn't happening to every defense that you're watching.
I would tell you that maybe there's 2 or 3 teams out there. If you want to compare every other team's defense to the Jets' defense, I think that's a little short-sighted on your part, young man.
No, 100%. But my whole question is, when we talk about process, right, and we talk about looking forward and hope for the future, I can see things on the offense that I can look at and point to and say, yes, I can see those guys growing and getting better and moving in the right direction. On the defense, and this is where I want you to educate me, I don't see guys getting better. I still see mistakes and the same mistakes in some cases getting repeated and new ones being made. Am I completely wrong?
No, you're 100% right about that. That's not my point about offense and defense. My point I guess when you really sit down to it is that it's easier to get defense fixed overnight than it is to fix an offense overnight.
Oh,
so that's number one. Number two is that you've got to be able to teach players on defense more about what you need done. The offense is more like the Rockettes. The defense is more like a discotheque dance floor. So you've got a bunch of moving parts on defense, but you've got to confuse the offense with your moving parts. So
shouldn't this be even more concerning then? If defense is easier, if in your words, defense is easier to lock down,
code.
Right? And yet it's moving in the wrong direction.
Right. You want me to make it easy for defense? I'll tell you how you make it easy for defense. You get a defensive line that's getting to the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback within 2.5 seconds. That makes it easy on the defense. That makes it easy on the idiots that can't remember who to cover. That makes it easy on the guys that forget who to cover because they got hit in the head. And so all of these things and these mental errors go unseen when you have a defensive line that the quarterback is running for his life.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's just understand that. That doesn't mean that defense is going to win all their games.
Right.
That's not the way it works because the offense is awesome. So I want to get to the Jets, where if I'm a Jet fan, I want the Jets to win 35-30. I want them to win 38-24. I want to see them win 24-16. I want to see them score points and have the other team outscore them, because that's the way you do it in the NFL. When you go down and you look at, can your team run the ball? Go look at all the teams in the Super Bowl. What their offensive running game was. The Patriots. I bet the Patriots weren't in the top 10 running the ball ever in any of their Super Bowl runs ever. I mean, because they threw the ball. They threw the ball to run it. They throw the ball
right
horizontally, not vertically. They'll kill you vertically, but they throw it horizontally to get you tired, get you running, all of those things. So
yeah, and Tom Brady's still doing that. If you looked at him on Monday night, how many times did he just throw it to the wide receiver when the defensive back was playing off, or they ran a wide receiver screen or something like that? They make you defend every blade of grass on the field.
That's correct. I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do it in a heartbeat if I'm a quarterback. I look at the defense, you read the defense, the pre-snap look, and you say, this guy's off. They're going to be playing zone. I'm throwing it to the wide receiver. All I need is one block. And the whole team is going to pretend it's a run play, Every linebacker on a real run play should be towards the line of scrimmage. And if I get a little shake and go and someone misses a tackle, I have a huge game.
Right.
Because I cheated and I faked the run play. But they did.
Is that a penalty? I think that's it. Cheating on the offense.
So speaking of
That's
cheating,
correct. You can cheat around the rules offensively 100 times more than you could on defense. Holding.
Speaking of offensive cheaters, Jet fans used to look at Tom Brady in New England as the rival. They used to circle New England as the game that they wanted to watch, they wanted to win. Sadly, this year they circled the Houston game as a game that they could win. And that's what they're looking for, just a shot at winning. And now the Texans come off a stunning upset over Tennessee last week. What do you see in this game? Do you think the Jets can get a win?
I listen. I mean the Texans beat the Titans. The Dolphins pasted the Baltimore Ravens, made them look like they shouldn't be anywhere near a playoff run. You've got teams that just beat the Bengals, just beat the Titans. So yeah, I mean you could beat any team could beat anybody. That's
how about that? 2 of the Titans' 3 losses this season have come against the Texans and the Jets, the top seed in the AFC.
Isn't that amazing? And
It's
by the way,
unbelievable. Any given Sunday.
Well, and they may not lose another game. Who knows? But all I'm saying is that anybody can win, and just because that you think that you can just go throw your helmet on the field is going to make you win. That's not the way it works in the NFL.
So you say anybody could win. Who's going to win the Jets game this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Texans could beat the Jets. Jets could beat the Texans. I think the Jets will beat the Texans this weekend.
You do. There
Yeah.
you go. Now, you've never given a score. Are you willing to go that far?
I think the Jets will score into the 30s.
Whoa. That's
If you
impressive.
can only give a Texans score now, you will actually have done
You're
a full
halfway there.
prediction.
You're halfway.
Your first full prediction on TV or the podcast.
I think that the Texans will score 23 points.
All right.
Oh,
Then
Greg Buttle, ladies and gentlemen.
Week 11. Week 11,
He's
mark your
got
calendars. We
No
got a
more
prediction
commitment
out of him.
issues with Mr. Buttle.
That's
So, Miss Sarah, you got a prediction?
My prediction is the team that turns the ball over less is going to win this game. And
sounds like me.
yeah, well, I'm going to give you a score, though. I think that Tyrod Taylor, for all of his limitations as a quarterback, hasn't turned the ball over. I haven't seen that yet from Zach Wilson. I do think that this will be high scoring because I think the Jets will be able to move the ball on the Texans defense. But I just, until I see Zach Wilson play a clean game, I'm not confident that he can do it as a rookie. And I like what David Culley's doing over there in Houston. So I think that the Texans win this one 28-24.
As T.O. would say, get your popcorn ready.
Oh, baby.
Zach is going off. Elijah Moore, 3 touchdowns. Jets 28-27.
You are one point games. I'm
1
noticing
point.
a
That's
theme.
all I got. All you got to do is win by 1, right?
Yeah, well, that's true.
They're not blowing anybody out.
Unless they tie. It would be appropriate if these two teams
That
tied.
would be
If it would feel
awesome.
appropriate.
I would love that. Speaking of ties, I think we should give a tie to Greg Buttle for Christmas, for coming on the podcast and doing the
Absolutely.
Blitz. He was great on both. Mr. Buttle, thank you very much. A happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the country club turkey.
Awesome, guys. You too. Have a great one. And Joe, you just are you working Thursday?
No, I actually have
No, we
Thanksgiving
gave him
off for
off.
the first time in 10 years. I'm
That's
going to be.
unbelievable.
That's
It's
because
a
I'm his
beautiful
boss.
thing.
He asked me.
They probably
gave it
charged
to
you
him.
too.
I did charge him, of course.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
Good. Thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy the games.
I'm done with you two guys. Have a great one. All right.
You too, man.
You
Thank you
too,
for taking
Greg.
the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Bye, bud.